Hey guys, Pastor Jason here, one of the pastors at North Park Church in Columbus, Nebraska. I'm very grateful once again to be bringing your life group message to you for the week. And today's message is a little bit different. You know, we just got done with our visitation series, and we're going to start a really cool new series about Samson next week. But this week, we're talking about things that we always wish we could tell people about our church. Growing up North Park, specifically. So this should be a lot of fun, a break from the norm. Hopefully, if you're not a part of the church, you've been following along closely enough to kind of know how it is that things run around here, sort of who we minister to. And, you know, if not the message, the January 1st message, Growing Up North Park that's on YouTube, check that out and it'll give you a lot of insight into what we're talking about here today. But, excuse me. Just going to jump right into it. So for the weekend's message, Pastor Lynn made 5 really great points. 1, big doesn't mean blessed. 2, perception isn't pertinent. 3, dropouts don't mean disaster. 4, suffering means sanctification. 5, we're pursuing excellence. And all of those are on your outlines there. And we're just going to briefly discuss, point by point, how those relate to us personally. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it now. Question 1, you know, we know that big doesn't mean blessed. We all know that. You know, we live in this mega church culture, and we know that biblically that's not a blessing. We know that Jesus has very specific words about grand buildings and how they're all going to fall anyway. But it's difficult not to get, I don't know, sometimes maybe even a little discouraged by the size of things. And at North Park, not that we're super tiny. I mean, if you feel like being anonymous, you can be. Plenty of people do at North Park. But it's definitely not a mega church. So for question 1, how have you personally seen the size of our church at North Park as a blessing? How has the fact that it's not the picture of worldly success and just hundreds or thousands even of people, how have you seen the size of our church as a blessing to you personally? Pray about that, talk about that now. Okay, cool. Hopefully that generated some good discussion. I know for me personally, the fact that it is such a closely knit church family, although that has been difficult at times, you know, there's accountability. If you want to run and hide, it's a little bit more difficult because people care about you. But the truth of the matter is, it not only is it biblical, but it's just an amazing blessing to be a part of this church family. So moving on to question 2, have you ever struggled with the perception of North Park? Have you ever struggled with maybe your own perception of North Park, or struggled with other people's perception, or struggled with your perception of other people's perception? I know that's a tough one for me. You know, the Bible very clearly tells us that we shouldn't lean on our own understanding of things, but you know, sometimes it's really difficult to take those thoughts captive and not lean on our own understanding of stuff. So pray about this and discuss whether you have or have not, how you have or have not ever had a struggle with the perception of North Park Church. Talk about that now. Okay, yeah, I know it's funny. Things have changed so much for me over the years. When I first set foot in North Park, it was for a Thanksgiving meal several years ago. And when I first looked at the building, rolled up and looked at the gravel parking lot and saw the building, I thought, what am I doing here? You know, I'm this city kid that doesn't know anything about this obviously country church. And, you know, boy, was I wrong. What was going on inside did not at all match what I saw on the outside. But as I've grown up and been around for a few years, now one of the biggest struggles I have is my ideas or perception about what other people think. I'm it's difficult for me not to want to grab everybody and explain to them exactly what's going on and how wonderful it is and how off base they probably are. I have a struggle with that. I know some of you can probably relate. Okay, so moving on. Question 3, because of a lot of the people that we minister to and the ministries that we're involved in around here, we see a lot of people come and go, new faces every month, lots of them. Some people really try hard to stick around and fade out. Some people stick around for a while and fade out, but it's like a revolving door around here sometimes. And that can be discouraging, and from a worldly point of view, that looks a certain way, but let's talk about what the Bible says. For question 3, according to 1 Corinthians 11:19, why do people drop out? And do you struggle with this? Pray about that, talk about that now. Okay, cool. So obviously, dropouts, as discouraging as it may be, however it may look, obviously biblical. There's purpose in it. God sifts people out so we can know who's legit and who's not. We see it around here all the time, but it can be difficult to deal with. Moving on to question 4, how has suffering at North Park led to personal sanctification for you? And obviously, this applies throughout your walk with Christ. But, for example, one of the ways that we suffer particularly here at North Park that I would think many churches don't necessarily deal with on the level that we do is the dropout rate, the coming and going. That's a suffering that is very recognizable here at North Park. So for question 4, kind of along those lines, maybe not that specifically, but how has suffering that might be not exclusive but exaggerated at North Park led to personal sanctification to you? Pray about that and talk about that now. Okay, and the big question, the takeaway question. Question 5, what could you do personally to make North Park's pursuit of excellence more obvious to the community? I mean, anybody who's a part of what's going on around here knows the level to which we are pursuing excellence. And obviously we can't do things perfectly, but we really put everything that we have into pursuing excellence here at North Park. Now, pray about this. How could you make that more obvious to the community? How can I make that more obvious to the community? It's something that I'm asking myself every day. And again, we want to be prayerful. We want to be biblical. We don't want to be arrogant about this or, critical or judgmental in the wrong way about this. We want to always be ready to give to those who ask the reason for the hope that we have, but we want to do so with gentleness and respect. We definitely want to do things with gentleness and respect. We want to pray. We don't want to lean on our own understanding about how we would go about this. So pray about it. Discuss this among your group. What could you do personally to make North Park's pursuit of excellence more obvious to the community? Big question. Great question. Hope you guys have had a good time. Hope you guys have had some great discussion. I've had a good time recording this, and I will be back with you next week.